Hi, I'm Bobby, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about a series that I no longer want to continue. So first of all, I just want to say that none of these series are particularly bad. They're just series that I don't really have much interest in anymore. Some of them I've only read the first book of the series, and others I've read 2 or 3 books and I just decided that's enough for me. So I just wanted to clarify that if you liked any of these books, then I'm not criticising your choice. They're just series that I'm choosing not to continue with. I'm also going to say that most of these books are books that I've read this year. I've just sort of come to the point where they're not for me. I read them, I'm done. So the first series I want to talk about is The Dreadful Tale of Prosper Redding by Alexandra Bracken. So I had this book for a few years and I think I just kept putting it off because I knew it was about a demon and I thought this is going to be a great seasonal read for October. So I just kept putting it off, and then whenever October came around I was just never ready to read it. So I read it in April. Yeah, I read this back in April this year during lockdown. So I had a lot of free time and I just went random book. This book is about a boy called Prosper Redding. I don't know why I needed to look up the character's name. His name's Prosper Redding, it's in the title. This book is about a boy called Prosper Redding. He's possessed by a demon right at the beginning. Not a spoiler. And this demon's been in his family for centuries. Basically, the demon became part of his family during the pilgrimage, like the Pilgrim's Crossing to America. And so it's been in his family for like 300 years, 250 years, something like that. Basically, the demon wants revenge on his family. His family remove him from their town, which his family basically own a town. They remove him from his town and he's taken in by his uncle, who's sort of estranged from their family. And the uncle's daughter or stepdaughter is a witch who is determined to protect Prosper and try and help him exorcise the demon. That's kind of what I remember from it. I enjoyed reading this story. It was lots of fun. It was definitely aimed at like a younger audience, like about 12 to 15 I'd say. There was nothing wrong with it. I didn't particularly enjoy the writing style, but I have read Darkest Minds. Well, I started reading The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken, and I didn't enjoy the writing style of that one either. So I think it's just that I'm just not sticking with this author, is really how it's going. But this story was quite fun. There's only one other book in the series so far, and I don't know how long the series is going to be. But it's quite fun. It's like spooky without being scary. It's definitely very atmospheric for this time of year. There's nothing inherently wrong with this series, I just think it's probably aimed at a younger audience than me. So next up I have 2 books from sort of conjoining series by the same author. And those are Rick Riordan's Magnus Chase and Trials of Apollo. I think I've read the first 2 books in both these series, and I'm just feeling like I'm no longer interested in Rick Riordan's books. So I first started reading Rick Riordan back in about 2014. I started with The Heroes of Olympus and I read the whole of that and it was great fun. I really enjoyed it. The characters are amazing. I did enjoy the writing style then. I just think I've sort of grown tired of it maybe. And then after reading that series, I then went on to the Percy Jackson series. Maybe the wrong order, but I think if I hadn't read Heroes of Olympus first, then I probably wouldn't have enjoyed Percy Jackson, because that's definitely aimed at middle grade children. But then I started reading these 2 series over the past few years, and I just find that these books take me a very long time to read. Even though they're only about 300 and something pages long each, they're like, it just takes me forever to read them. I don't know. They don't really, I don't find they grip me too much around the middle. It's all the same sort of, yeah, they're all structured the same. Like, they find a prophecy, they have to go on a quest to go and retrieve something or save someone. They get obstacles in the way several times and then, oh look, they have to fight someone, and then they win. It just seems all kind of samey to me, and I just feel like I'm growing out of this sort of series. So I have read like 14 books from this author, and I'm like, I think I'm done now. But again, they're not bad stories. I just think it's no longer for me. I'm ready to move on from that series and that author. The next series on my list is another middle grade series, and that is Murder Most Unladylike by Robin Stevens. I've read the first 2 books in the series. The first one is called Murder Most Unladylike, and the second one is Arsenic for Tea. So this series is set in the mid-1930s. It follows 2 teenage girls who are investigating murders in their boarding school. So I read the first book a year or two ago, and when I started reading it, it just felt like it was supposed to be in the middle of a series. It's like they were talking about things as though I should already know something about their school, and it just didn't quite make sense to me. And in the first book, they investigate the murder of a teacher. This book follows on from that and is set during the school holidays. They've gone to one of their houses and someone gets murdered. Again. This was kind of a fun detective story for younger children, probably also around the age of about 12 at most. I find that these books, they kind of dragged a little bit. They're a bit too, they're just a bit too slow, and the writing's quite simple because it's aimed at young children, so I suppose that's why it didn't really gel with me. They were fun. I definitely enjoyed them. They had very enjoyable plots, and they weren't particularly predictable, but I think they were quite slow and they didn't really interest me for very long. But I would definitely recommend this for 10 to 12-year-old children, maybe 10 to 14. So the next series I want to talk about is another one that I've only read the first book, and that is Black Hearts by Nicole Castroman. I bought this book in Canada a few years ago from Mum Rose bookstore, which is supposed to be like quite a famous, popular bookshop, but it was tiny, man. Like, tiny. Anyway, this book is sort of like an origin story for Blackbeard the pirate. It was okay. I thought it would be more piratey than... well, it ended up just being a romance story. This book follows Teach Drummond and Anne Barrett as they fall in love. Anne is a servant girl in Teach's dad's household. I believe that Anne was mixed race and her mum was from Africa. And after losing both her parents, she is taken in as a servant girl in Master Drummond's household. This follows her as she meets Teach and they fall in love, and it's kind of forbidden because, you know, the time period, mixed race relationships. It was kind of fun. There's a bit of adventure story in there, a bit of romance, but for me there was like too much romance in the story. I thought it would be like just about pirates. So there are currently only 2 books in this series, and I don't know if there are going to be any more, but personally I feel that this book ended in quite a good place, and I'm not really bothered about finding out what happens next. It was well written. I didn't find it the most interesting story, but it was quite fun, and I'm satisfied with the ending from this first book. So personally, I don't feel the need to continue with the story anymore. The next series is one that I haven't read in quite a long time, and that is the Great Library series by Rachel Kane. This is the second book, Paper and Fire. I read the first book, Ink and Bone, a few years ago. I feel like I bought this book at the beginning of 2017, before I had finished reading the first book, and then I just never went on to reading this book. So this series takes place in a dystopian world where the Library of Alexandria survives, but it is only allowed to be accessed by certain people, that you have to have special access to get in. The first book follows Jess as he competes to get a place working in the Library of Alexandria. I don't really remember a lot about this series. Like, I just never went on to reading this book, and I think I've tried going back to it before and I just really struggled. I don't remember the first book at all, and the beginning of the second book just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Which is kind of funny, because from what I remember, I saw the second book in the shop before I heard of the series, and it was the synopsis of the second book that drew me in. But then I had to read the first book to get into the story, and I got the second book and just stopped caring. So yeah, really, I've just had this book for too long now, and I just no longer have any interest for it. I don't remember much about it, and the characters don't really mean anything to me. So I think I'm just gonna put this book away and probably never read it. I do find it kind of sad when I decide that I don't want to read books that I already own, but like, I'm not gonna waste my time reading series that I don't think I'm gonna enjoy, or that series that no longer mean anything to me. I'm not gonna force myself into reading something that is no longer enjoyable. So those are a few series that I no longer think I'm going to continue. I think that if you enjoy these series, then it's entirely up to you to continue reading them, but these are my personal choices to not continue them anymore. They no longer hold a lot of meaning for me, and I just don't feel that I want to put my time into them any longer. So thank you for watching this video. Comment down below any series that you've been reading recently and what you thought of them. If you've seen previous videos, I have series I want to finish and series that I want to start. And I really enjoy getting suggestions on series that you enjoyed or your opinion on different books that I've read. So that's it for this video. I have links to my Instagram, GoodReads and Twitter down below. And I'd love to hear from any of you about books that you've been reading recently or any series that you enjoy. Until next time, bye!